Hi everyone. I'm going to elaborate a little bit on what I want you all to do for the first major writing assignment. If you're feeling nervous because you're unfamiliar with technical writing or you're not quite confident in your ability to compose multimodally, take a deep breath and relax. I'm going to be right here to talk you through all of this. After reading the chapter in Technical Communication today, you should have a pretty clear idea of what technical instructions are, but here's a little more context. I've decided to start our semester with writing an instruction set because it's probably the most familiar form of technical writing. Most of us use technical instructions on a regular basis to do anything from cook dinner to figure out why our car is making that weird noise and if we really need to take it into the mechanics. Since they're so widely used, technical instructions come in many formats so that all sorts of people can access the information they need. In addition to being widely used and super familiar to most of you, technical instructions also underscore some of the most important parts of technical writing, namely composing something that will become accessible and useful to your chosen audience. Defining an audience for an instruction set is a little easier than defining one for some other genres like a recommendation report, which makes technical instructions a good place for us to start. Now that you know what this assignment is and why we're doing it, it's time to actually start working on it. The first step is to think of an activity you would do well and would feel comfortable explaining to someone else. This can be pretty much anything, so long as it's not overly simple. Please don't try to hand in an instruction set on how to tie your shoe. Other than that, the world is pretty much your oyster. If you're stuck, making a list of things you're good at or things that you enjoy doing can really help you get started. For this assignment, you also need to choose a fantastical situation. This is a little harder, but thinking of a fantastical situation that appeals to you is a good place to start and will make the instruction set a lot more fun. For example, if you're a science fiction nerd who wants to teach people how to care for a pet snake, you might write as if you're telling your audience how to cater to the needs of a kindly alien race so that they don't turn unkindly and take over the world. Once you have this figured out, you'll need to find an audience. Your audience can't possibly be everyone. The fact that your instruction set is going to be composed in English already makes it inaccessible to a huge chunk of people, so definitely make sure you have a specific group of people in mind. It can be people from a certain age group, a certain area of the world, a certain social or cultural group, or people who have a certain level of comfort or experience with this activity. But whoever your audience is, you need to make sure that your instruction set is designed with them and their needs in mind. For example, if you're writing for an elderly population, you might want to avoid technologies that would be uncomfortable or unfamiliar to them, such as using a video or some sort of complicated sound project. This brings us to the last point, format. The instruction set does have to be multimodal, meaning that it needs to use two modes of communication like video and audio, images and text, sound and images, or any other combination of those things. You should choose a format based on your audience and what would be easiest for them to access and understand. If you're unsure of which programs to use to compose this, check the tutorials folder on Learn for a bunch of different tutorials for a bunch of different programs that you could possibly use for this sequence. For many of you, the multimodal aspect of this is probably the scariest part about the assignment. So first, just take a deep breath and try to relax. Because honestly, it's not quite as tricky as you think. Defining an audience will help you narrow down the possible formats you might use. From there, try to give yourself time to watch tutorials and experiment with a few different programs to get your feet wet and get a sense of what might work best for this project. If you're just too overwhelmed to start experimenting with a bunch of different programs, then start by writing out your instruction set and play around with different formats. Even if you wind up not doing something text-based, your written out instructions will make an excellent script for a video or sound project. So if all of this seems a little bit abstract and tricky, I'm going to give you a really nice concrete example. So let's say you want to make an instructional video on how to properly approach and pet a rabbit, since they can be tricky to handle and are less familiar to most people than other pets are. You decide to make children your audience because they often might want to pet or hold a rabbit that they see at a pet store or at a friend's house, but they usually don't know how to do so without accidentally hurting and scaring the rabbit, because kids can sometimes accidentally be mean to animals. Since these kids are small and probably can't read yet, it's best to pick something image and audio based. So for this scenario, a video of you actually handling a rabbit properly would be an excellent idea. Now, all that's left is the fantastical scenario. Since children often hear and watch stories about princes or princesses who have special animal friends, pretending to be a royal who's training the next generation of princes or princesses on how to make animal friends would be a super fun idea, and would also give you an excuse to dress up like the royalty you are. Hopefully this video has left you feeling a little more confident about how to compose your instruction set, and has given you some good ideas about where to start. Let me know if you have further questions.